Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ignore the Bird, Follow the River, a podcast where nerds and creatives talk about Willow. I'm Zach, game master and artist at Nerdcrafty.com. Today, I'm joined by fellow Willow enthusiasts, Weston and Adam. Adam, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Just got off work and I'm ready to talk about Willow and more specifically Val Kilmer as Madmartigan. I'm excited about that. And we've got Weston coming up too. What are you up to, Weston?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm doing all right. I'm super stoked to talk about Madmartigan tonight. I love Madmartigan. He may have been my first crush, my first male crush. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't know anybody who can watch that scene with him and Sorsha in the tent and tell me that they aren't a little bit, whew, a little bit sweating. Having to cool their face a little bit, just thinking about it.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with Willow, but we're in the midst of our deep dives. And tonight we're talking about, you said it, Madmartigan. I've got a character sheet and some Dungeon Master and player tips on how to run Madmartigan in your own campaign that we'll be getting to. Adam, I know you have some Hero Forge creations.
I do.
Quite a few of them, so we'll be able to get to those. And Weston, you've been putting together all of the great art that we have for the podcast. So, but before we get to all of that, let's talk about the brunette Favio swashbuckler himself, Madmartigan.
Yes, the goat himbo sword boy.
Yeah, no, that scene with Sorsha, if that doesn't move you, you may not be moved. Be an immovable object.
I feel cool. Like Sorsha. Sorry to interrupt. I feel like Sorsha was kind of annoyed by her mom her entire life anyway. So I think this was just an easy out for her.
Dude, yeah. I mean, we all know someone who had some interesting relationships when they were young because they had some rough home times. Definitely me for sure. But yeah, we keep bringing up the tent scene. I think we're gonna have to spend at least 20 minutes on that by itself. I mean, the way we're signaling here.
It's not where you get to start with him, unfortunately. You start with him in the cage.
Yeah, at the crossroads.
Yes.
And we start out with Madmartigan almost completely feral, seething in this crow's cage, literally slurring at Willow, grabbing him by his lapels.
Martigan at his maddest.
Yeah.
I mean, desperation will do that to you, man. I mean, who knows how long he was in that crow's cage? The film doesn't necessarily tell us. But definitely seems like he's been there more than a few days.
It's true. They don't tell you. They kind of leave it to your imagination.
Yeah, man. And, I mean, imagine his surprise. There's, 5, 6 Snellwyn and a baby?
Right.
Actually, that character, they leave a lot to the imagination.
It's my favorite part, dude. I've thought so much about that character because I didn't have the books growing up. I just watched this movie over and over and over and over again. I didn't find out the books even existed until my late 20s. So, I have this whole headcanon that basically existed for Madmartigan for 20-something years before I knew it was any different.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same, Weston. I was maybe a little older than you, but I didn't have the books or anything like that, and I just kept watching it over and over with my brother and my family and the kids my mom babysat for, and we would just sort of parade around and grab whatever swords we could find and pretend to be Willow and Madmartigan and Eric and all those guys and stuff and have fun with that.
Hell yeah. I was always He-Man, but that was just my, another obsession I was having at that point. I mean, can a shout out for Dolph Lundgren right now? I know we're talking about Val, but heartthrobs, heartthrobs are heartthrobs. It's just anyway. Yeah, no, I do really love that scene at the crossroads though, and the escalation of it. I mean, the Nellens are all kind of like huddled together, kind of frightened, and what's there to escalate that tension but Madmartigan, and but also giving them that potential. Immediately the Burgle-Cut character and is completely on board with just giving this feral human an infant child, just washing his hands.
Oh, I want to do a deep dive on Burgle-Cut.
Oh, we'll get there. I mean, if you want me to spit some venom, I will definitely. I will have it in spades for that episode.
That's
sure.
Cool. Hell yeah. Yeah, Madmartigan, like it's crazy. Madmartigan goes through like all the different emotions and shit like that throughout that first scene that he's in. Like, I mean, he's there, he sees them, he like grabs what's his name? Migash. Grabs Migash, he like insults them and demands water, and then he's like bartering with trying to sway Burgle-Cut and everything like that. He's just like goes through and then the next day he's like, so guys, rough night, huh? Let's be friends.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Of course, and watching their drama, their whole group hierarchy, Madmartigan capitalizes on it as he can immediately, as soon as he can, pouncing on any weakness he can perceive, and there's Willow, kind of like vaguely aware that they're right now just like broadcasting all of their problems to this person who doesn't have any good intentions for this child he's supposed to be protecting. Madmartigan is, he's really not. He's not trying to be a good guy there. He's not like, his goal in getting Elora Danan is more getting free. I don't think he necessarily had super noble intentions. I think, honestly, I suppose it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think the next day, the first day, like, yeah, totally not noble intentions, but I think the second day he's had time to think about it and everything like that. I feel like he can't help, like, just in his core of being who he is, like, he's self-serving, but he also has that need to to help somebody or to work for a higher cause, and I think that is one of the things. He's gonna womanize as many women and use Elora Danan to to find as many women as he can at that point, but I think it's just like that little crack in his armor, that little chink in his armor that that he is able to, like, he's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this for this kid, but it's gonna serve me, and then later on, well, now I really care about this kid. It's that little chink, that first little part that gets him, and I think he's always had a good heart. He just doesn't let it show because he's had strife in his life, at risk of rhyming.
No, yeah, no, it's you're right. I do think, okay, I'll say it this way: when Madmartigan really starts caring is when it's too late.
Yeah,
I think Madmartigan starts caring once the brownies have stolen the baby. I don't think he really thought about it too much. Like, I genuinely do. But that's, I mentioned it in the last episode, and I mean, I don't want to jump past the crossroads because there's so many great moments, so many wonderful beats of that. But I mean, I think really, it's a really good example of why I feel this way is what Madmartigan does after he loses Elora Danan. What does he do? He goes to the nastiest tavern in all of Motherworld and sucks a little bit,
Yep.
Find someone he knows is gonna cause some strife in his life.
Right, yeah. What do you do when you fuck up? You treat yourself to something that's not really good for you, but you know you're going to enjoy.
Yeah, that's what you know, I definitely have been in those cycles myself in my life where,
Yep.
I don't know how to deal with the the pain or anger I'm feeling mostly at myself. And so what do? You participate in self-destructive behaviors that um aren't that are the coping mechanisms that you've learned over the course of your life, but are not
Yeah,
necessarily helping you anymore.
true. I think he's still like at that point at the crossroads. Even the first day, is it the first day when? Yeah, it's the first day when Eric comes by with the army and all that stuff, right?
Actually, I think it's the second
Or is
day.
it the second
After they
day?
wake up, after Burglecut and the rest of the warriors have
Oh
left,
yeah,
Left. Yeah.
um, and that's when the soldiers show up.
that's right. Well, I think that even then, like it's just a matter of time before he finds something. Like because to Eric, he's like, "Give me a sword, I'll win this war for you," and all that stuff. Like he's just looking for something to someone to serve so that he can become the best Madmartigan that he can be, not through self-serving but through serving something else, you know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, I think it's a little more. I mean, to get into the meta of the character, I think I do think mostly his pleas to Eric and to Migosh and Willow and the rest
Yeah,
um, are mostly out of that same selfish habits. Those same selfish
true,
habits. I think that they're not. He's not. He doesn't understand the importance in service. Um, Not at that point. He wants
true.
out, and he wants redemption. Absolutely, but
Oh
he's
yeah.
still pursuing. Pardon me. He's still pursuing that in a uh, egotistical or self-interested, kind of way. He wants to win the war for you, Eric. He wants to raise the baby, and he doesn't really have. I mean, he's sitting there in the crow's cage. There's not many reasons that anyone, you know, would typically do that unless they. I mean, especially in stories like this, usually it's a evil witch lets you out of the cage, and then you're beholden to her tricks, and
Right, yeah.
or
Yep.
something
Ooh,
of that
I like
nature.
that Willow story.
Yeah, right. I know you would,
I
Zach.
I've got I'm of a different mind on Madmartigan in that cage. I think he's just like, and I think he's definitely got that in him, but you don't really get to see it yet. You're seeing him like at his worst, at his
Yeah,
lowest, at his worst, at his most desperate. And
He's
like
hit rock bottom.
what would what would any yeah, at rock bottom, he's got nowhere to go. It's great for a character. He's got nowhere to go but growth, And it's gonna
Right.
be either the witch or it's gonna be Willow, and I like both of them. But at that beginning, it's like any of us. What would we do if we're in a cage, man? Sure, I'll take care of your baby. Just let me out of here.
Just let me
And
out. Do
so,
whatever you want.
yeah, sure, I'll go win that army for you, but it starts with me
That's true.
getting out of here, right?
totally.
The last thing he says to Eric when he leaves is when Eric says, "No, I won't let you out. Stay and rot." He's like, "I'll cut your head off. I'll put it on a pike."
On a pig
So
pole.
yeah. So I definitely feel that the character's got to have that growth, and he wants to be a hero, and sometimes it's that want that puts you in situations like in a cage on the crossroads, because life's not easy. Life, it's not a straight line. You're gonna have obstacles if you want to be a good person. So and do the right thing. And so I really love that he starts um in a place where he's not only bad, but he's in bad circumstances. And that changes how you'll behave and how you appear. His teeth are all grimy
Mm.
and it's just
Yeah.
it's such a weird way to be introduced to this hero character, and I enjoy it for the if only because I can't think of a lot of times when other people have done that. Yeah, let's get him right out here in a crow's cage covered in poop.
Yeah.
This
You know
guy's
And
what? I
literally
don't.
been shit on.
You
yeah,
mentioned.
compare. Oh,
Oh,
sorry, Adam.
good. Oh, I was just like you mentioned something about his teeth being all grimy. I don't know if you guys. I'm sure you have noticed this, and I don't know if this was like a directorial choice
Right?
but like the first day, his teeth are nasty. But the second day, like they wake up and he's chewing on something, and then you look at he smiles and his teeth are all clean. You're like, what the
Yep.
hell? Like, is he trying? Is that his character trying to impress these guys to make him think, hey, yeah, I'm good enough to take care of the baby? Or was that just like an error on props or makeup or something like that? You
I
know?
I've got a theory. I think it's Val Kilmer getting tired of putting on all that teeth makeup. He's putting in a scene of himself chewing blackroot so he doesn't have to do that every day
Right?
on set. Gives your little character growth to his teeth and his soul.
Yeah, and I was wondering, is that Blackroot? I was wondering about that too.
Well,
That's funny.
I've always thought of it like odd like this is funny. I always think of it like a chew toy, like a dog in a cage with a chew toy.
Yeah,
Because it almost like sounds like rubbery to me the way that he's chewing on it, and like
yeah.
I just imagine that's what he's cleaning his teeth with. It's like something with like a, it's not super porous that you could rub on your teeth and try and clean off some of the plaque. That may have been available to him. Maybe even like in the night, Migosh was like, "Bro, you look like shit. Clean your teeth off, homie."
Yep, totally.
That was the off-screen moment where him and Willow really became friends. They shared a toothbrush.
Yeah, that's that's the real intimate kind of thing, man. You have to really share yourself with somebody at that moment. Oh man.
That's funny.
Uh,
Well, one thing I was going to bring up, and I'll be cycling back to it, is building a Madmartigan in your own game. And if you're a player or if you're a GM, and Madmartigan, to me, especially the way he starts, this is the example of the player who comes up to you and wants heavy armor. Wants to start with that plate armor or something, which is it's pricey in D&D.
Yep.
It's pricey historically, and so I, as the GM, I'm like, okay, you can get your armor. I promise. Before the end of the campaign, you will get a king's set of armor, Mr. Madmartigan. And as I'm saying this, I'm crafting in my mind how I'm gonna start him in a cage, covered in dirt, no sword, no armor. I'm thinking of scenes. I'm like, okay, how are we gonna get women's clothing involved in this? We need, you know what I mean? So I love that. I think Madmartigan is totally fitting into any of your campaigns, and you can have your badass armor. You can come up with these great ideas, but any good GM is gonna have your character start somewhere closer to that cage, in prison, something like that. You've got to have that growth where you can accomplish those things for solving the puzzle of the dungeon, et cetera, et cetera. The real fun of the game is not in the characters, it's in the players at the table when you do these things. So
Oh yeah.
Madmartigan, I feel like kind of fits that for a T, and any good GM can see can take a few good notes there, or even a player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a
yeah,
big fan
Yeah.
of that GM bartering. The player says I want to have this. It's up to the GM to cook that in and come up with a fun way to give the player what they want, not the character.
man. It's honestly, I don't know. That's why I like playing with you, man. You're a great you're a great DM, and yeah, it's fun that you find these great story hooks to, get the players what they want, especially when it's a little bit like should be out of reach or could be out of reach kind of thing. You find a story hook for it, and that's good storytelling. Like
Definitely.
I think what's interesting is like compare where we start with Madmartigan to where we start with Han Solo. Like Han Solo, we meet in Mos Eisley, and you immediately get the impression that this guy is, dangerous.
Mhm.
Maybe in a cool way. In that anti-hero kind of way. And I
He
think
gets a cool
that's
intro.
Oh yeah,
man.
they're both anti-heroes. But Han Solo, yeah, exactly, gets, especially in the first, in the only cut we speak of, Han shoots first.
right.
So his his introduction to us is, obviously a very dangerous person, um, a little bit mysterious. And I think we find all that same mystery in Madmartigan. We find that same, you know, we find ourselves being captivated, but in a different way by Madmartigan. The emotional arc that you get from Madmartigan in the first, in just his introduction, really. I mean, we go from 11 down to, this person who's very mellow and like gives this huge monologue that, Willow is still on the fence about, but Migosh is moved to let this motherfucker out the cage for. Like, he's convincing, he definitely he knows his way around a conversation and around
he's
people.
he's
Uh,
definitely got a high charisma score.
and exactly. So he's cool in a different way, than Han Solo. And
He
um, I will continue to draw this comparison because they are both Lucas properties, and I am in love with this one.
It's not a bad comparison.
I feel like Madmartigan does get his cool intro, but
Here.
it's like he gets two intros. You get him once at the crossroads, and then he disappears with the baby, and you're with the brownies and the the flying lady in the forest.
Yeah,
And then
Well,
you get another intro with Madmartigan, and he's doing his dressed up as a woman shenanigans.
he's doing his drag. Yeah.
I think the next big intro. I
In the
think.
chase.
I mean, I thought what you were gonna say as his next intro was when he's the first time he holds an actual sword in the movie, and Willow looks at him
Oh,
and he's like, "Oh, you are great," and
right.
What
then Madmartigan
what part's
slips.
that?
It's at the right before they go do the
The sled.
sledding on the shield.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, like the first one is like he's at rock bottom. The second one is he's kind of sort of found a road to redemption, but then he fucks up because the brownies steal the baby. And so he's like off, and so that's like he's fallen off the wagon, and they find him again there. And then I think the third introduction is when he's like, "Oh shit, he's on the wagon. He's a good swordsman. He's badass. Oh wow,
Yeah, maybe there's three introductions. I mean, that's
yeah,
the character. That's the character. He's constantly revealing little bits about himself. He's a
right,
mystery ultimately. And they keep that mystery up, just revealing bits and pieces about the character throughout the film. He's one of the smartest written characters because you find out who he is predominantly through Eric. Eric kind of tells you whatever backstory you're ever going to get from Madmartigan. Everything you learn from Madmartigan is Madmartigan's arc. From his mouth, it's just the future. He is not thinking about the past.
right,
Um, yeah, he Madmartigan lives in the moment, bro.
yeah,
uh, yeah, so he's uh, a constantly evolving, constantly metamorphosizing character. That by the end of the film, he's a very different person than where we found him.
definitely.
And I think in large part due to his relationship with Willow.
Oh yeah,
Co-fathering a baby together with Willow was a foundational experience for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's exactly where what I was thinking too. I feel like Willow, when Madmartigan sees like I feel like he can't be outdone by Willow. He sees how courageous this little peck is, and he won't, he can't abide it. His ego won't allow it.
yeah, yeah,
Wait,
Like at the start of their relationship, before or during that the ice moments when he, picks him up on his shoulder and stuff like that. Their
Right.
relationship is very much he's coming to grasp with the fact that in many ways Willow is much braver than Mardigan, and that doesn't sit well with him. And at the same time, that's what makes it so juicy is at the same time Willow is gaining this newfound confidence when he sees what a coward Mardigan can be.
Yeah.
So I feel like the two character growths are very complementary.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's it's almost a learning from each other, you know, in a way. Like there's
Exactly.
the so after the crossroads, he gets the baby stolen. We end up in the tavern, self-destructing, and we end up in the big chase in the film on the
Oh yeah.
rickety old wooden cart.
Yep.
Madmartigan
One of my
steals.
one of my favorite sequences of the movie. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's a brilliant sequence. It must have taken forever to shoot it. I
Yeah.
mean, especially all the like composite images and whatever physical effects and
It,
other effects work they were having to do to put the brownies in there. And I mean, there's a
it
lot going
has
on in there.
yeah, it has a lot of little details. Like it's a wooden cart and they're showing like the wooden wheels breaking. And I'm just imagining like as the filmmaking process, that's some kind of a little more outside the box like chase stuff. And they have the the bump sequence and they make it interesting. It's one of my favorite I think one of the better sequences of the whole movie. I really love it.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good, and on par for George Lucas. I mean, since American Graffiti, you know.
And the whole time Madmartigan is in the women's
Right.
costume and like throwing his melons out of his bra. I
Yep.
love it.
So good. It's so good. And yeah, you learn a lot about them in that sequence. I mean, Willow's obviously like trying to protect Laura Dannon by making sure that the cart stops and that she can be, you know, cared for in a safer environment than
Yeah,
this moving death trap. Mad
Right.
Mardigan is trying to save Alora by outrunning and
Right.
killing these pursuers. Uh, and like, oh man, it's it, that's kind of the major conflict they're having there at that point.
Right.
Um, Brownies being tossed about, dude, and the weapons they use in that sequence are just all so unique and interesting, and you don't get to see them often in like sword and sorcery movies. They're just like you get a morning star, and you have the like throwing stars. Just it was just such a really interesting and creative sequence.
Yeah,
Like,
the throwing stars.
yeah, yeah, and it always feels like it was shot like in Sonoma or something. Like it feels like I don't know. It's probably shot in, like, near the Skywalker Ranch, although I know they did a lot of location filming for that, but it does feel a lot
Right.
like the same kind of environment as Endor, you know?
Yeah. 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 I think they like. I was watching a couple different things on YouTube and stuff about it, and I think they filmed in Wales and New Zealand, I believe, in addition
They
to
filmed
some other locations. But
yeah.
Yeah,
The two big set pieces were the two different castles.
yeah,
Those
and those
were
were in Wales,
filmed in the
right?
studio. I can't recall.
But yeah, so they did New Zealand before Lord of the Rings did.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Probably even before Xena and Hercules, right?
What? Those are shot in New Zealand too?
Oh yeah,
What?
Lucy Lawless is a Kiwi, I believe.
No way.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Wow, that's super cool. Okay, I have to go
Yeah,
back and rewatch at least Xena. I don't think I ever, like, watched more than a few episodes as a kid because I never knew when it was on kinda thing,
yeah,
but Uh, definitely some. Uh, I mean, a big fan of sword and sorcery. Basically, wherever I can get it.
right. Oh man. So,
But
I what about so like just backtracking a little bit. What are both of your thoughts about like the scene where Madmartigan is in the tavern and he's not a woman and yada yada yada, all that, everything that ensues.
I mean, just thoughts on that scene alone and Madmartigan's role in it. I mean, it's frenetic. It's kind of chaotic. The whole thing is shot like, almost like a kids movie version of Fear and Loathing. It's like,
Yeah.
um, it's pretty chaotic. The way that they're shooting in kind of more short, like faster edits.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot that take in, and you're always coming from Willow's perspective, looking up, or the brownie's perspective, zoomed way in on a tiny object while you're inside of a beer cup or something like that. When we're
Right.
first introduced to the dust of broken heart, when Rule falls in love
Yes.
with a cat and almost gets eaten,
Yep.
and I love that part. But yeah, Madmartigan's whole that first meeting with Sorsha is, I think, probably one of the most. I mean, obviously, you had to get Willow and Madmartigan back in the same place so that they would do their adventure together and learn from each other and be best friends and co-parent a baby.
Right.
But of course, that's the most important part. But secondary, very close to in first place, is him meeting Sorsha and having that beat. And of course, escaping her. I mean, they have to do that so that
Right.
movie
Right.
can happen. But yeah, he's even like, she's like, "You're very strong." He's like, "You're very beautiful," or something like that.
Right.
So it's like we're establishing already that there is some connection to these that these people have, some sparks flying, even though there's no real reason that should be happening in that moment unless it's meant to be kind of fantasy love.
Right.
Like, I'm about to steal this baby. What do you mean I'm beautiful, you idiot? um, but yeah, I don't know, man. What's your take?
I don't know. I agree with everything you've said. I think the what is it? I don't remember the name of it. The powder of what?
Oh, Dust of Broken Heart.
Dust of Broken Heart. I never knew that. That's really cool. Learn something every day. I think that really foreshadows everything that's going to happen in the future there. When he goes into her tent, the scene that we've been talking about, and
Right.
everything. But it's interesting. Like, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that scene. But it's pretty cool, like the symbolism of that scene and everything like that. But yeah, that just sets the tone for it and gives you, sets the tone.
Totally.
I really like the when you see him dressed as a woman that Willow is in the scene too, and he's having to like improvise. He's like and you
Yep.
can hear or he's not having to improvise, but he can overhear the improvisation. He's like, "Cousin Hilda."
Yep.
So I really love that you get to kind of, as an audience, you get to be there with Willow, like just watching all of this madness that's happening.
Oh, and how they just completely ignore his existence. Like
Right.
it just shows you
Oh
kind of how
yeah,
the Dakinis treat Nelwyn. Like, literally
yeah,
says they make such terrible nursemaids. Everyone in that tavern
Right.
calls him a peck.
Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody calls-
I didn't bring it up, but the way that tavern is set up, it's a lot to take in. I jumped to Madmartigan's moment.
Yeah,
No,
it's
there's
definitely
tons. Yeah.
Hiatus. I remember when I was a little kid and saw this movie, even though I was a short person, like one of the things that I latched onto and my friends and everybody were like, "Out of the road, Peck." And that was one of the things. And then as an adult, I'm like, wait a second, I'm a Peck. What the hell? When I was building the little miniatures, well, the virtual miniatures, I guess, like I did
Ugh.
like the ones from that scene for Madmartigan were the ones I did the most of, because I did Madmartigan as Hilda with like full covering and everything like that, and then I did Madmartigan not a woman, where the shroud is taken off his head, and then I did Madmartigan Traveling and Madmartigan Traveling 2, where he's got just the pants on, and then he's got pants and like the fur cape or whatever.
Right.
Like
Whatever that thing is.
yeah, for such a small scene and everything like that, like I did the most costuming for that with my miniatures.
I love the one where he's still got the dress on, and I can reenact the chase sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks so good, dude.
Oh, thanks.
Well, and just imagine the props department and like continuity having to be like, all right, do you have that on? All right, is this, having
Right?
to check like the degradation of this dress as the scenes like progress through the film. Wondering
Oh
if there
yeah.
was several different ones and they shot out a sequence, or
Oh
if
yeah.
the dress just got more and more fuckered as they shot in sequence, out of sequence kind of thing.
Right. Because they had Lucas money, but I don't think they had like Lucas money. They had to conserve a few things.
Yeah, no, totally. But I mean, just a lot to keep track of is all I'm saying. Coming from
Oh,
like a
definitely.
production standpoint.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But what I think after that, after that and the chase scene, we get we get to Willow leading them to the lake, or I guess Madmartigan leading them to the lake. But I have a question.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys think Madmartigan was really going the same way coincidentally, or do you think he was just bluffing, putting it on for show?
I go back and forth on that. Yeah, I really, honestly, I don't know for sure. Like, yeah, I just keep every once in a while I'm like, well, maybe it's coincidental, but then I'm like, no, he cares about them now, like not just the baby, but he cares about Willow and everything. He's like, man, I just don't want to see this guy, and this baby go down.
Yeah, watching it as a kid, I always thought like he was playing it straight. He was genuinely just like, oh,
Yeah.
there's coincidentally going the same direction.
Right.
But watching it now, especially with what we have as context, what's led up to here, him in the cage, getting the baby,
Yeah.
getting Alora Dannon stolen, kind of growing closer to Willow and Alora, and then we end up at that scene where they're like, well, we're going this way. Oh no, we're going this. I'm going that way. And I really feel like, at this point watching it feels very conclusive that Madmartigan is just bluffing. He has nowhere to go. He has no clue where he's going. He's literally still at the bottom. He's at rock bottom still. He hasn't really like he's barely just escaped death. He has no clothes on but the tatters of a woman's dress. He's got nothing, no sword to protect himself, no real identity he can even use that is his own because his entire reputation is tarnished. Where can he go? Where is he
And he's just
supposed to
going
go?
off. He's just going off like because they reached their goal that they said they were going to reach, and he's just probably just leaving to save face and be like, "Yeah, all right, cool. You guys are fine. I'm fine. I'll see you later."
Yeah, and I don't know if this is supposed to be like something that is a focus of the film, but I found out recently going through the book, the novelization, that where they were actually headed is at the near the foot of Tyr's that lake is super close to Tyr's
Okay.
So like literally everyone in this world but Willow and most of the Netherlands, I'm assuming, because for some but everyone in this world, I assume, knows that Tyr's is a crystallized, nothing now. It's no longer the
Right.
seat of power that it once was. It's toast. No one decides to tell Willow this at any point in the story, but
Right.
several people do have the opportunity. But we're just going to take that up as Daikini's being really bad people. It's not a plot hole. Dakinis are bad people. Excuse me. But yeah, I think what's really interesting is after that is we get to the lake. Willow leaves Alora Dannon on the island when he goes in the boat. You know, the brownies are there to protect her, quote unquote. But you know, there's not much they can really do. So while Willow is going to retrieve Finn Rizal and the wand, Cheryl Andrea's wand,
Uh-huh.
Alora is ultimately unprotected in a completely inhospitable environment, and I just remember that sequence where Willow and Madmartigan are saying goodbye to each other, you know, and Madmartigan does the double look back, you know, he's
Yeah.
like he like gives him that look
Yep.
that's like basically like, yeah, I'm leaving, sure,
Yeah.
yeah,
The look
it's
and the
like,
hand gesture.
you know that he's just going to hold a perimeter for them, and that's how he ends up getting captured.
Mm.
That's what I think, anyway. There's He
Yeah.
literally has nowhere to go. Willow is the only friend on the planet that he has. You know, I don't think Madmartigan had anywhere else to go other than be there. I think that Madmartigan needs to put up these uh, facades. You know, he has to pretend that he doesn't care. He has to pretend that he's unknowable and mysterious, and um, it's all part of uh, probably a system of unhealthy coping mechanisms he developed as a child. But
Right.
uh, you know, that's where my head goes at watching it at this point. Is Madmartigan doesn't like just wander off and eventually get captured and then narc on them. He's captured holding a perimeter for them, and then they know to look nearby where he was keeping watch, and capture them.
Yeah.
And of course, Madmartigan feels terrible about it. I'm pretty sure, still throwing up the same kind of uh, half truths and facades and telling Willow, you know. But he says, "I'm sorry about this, Peck." It's the first words out of his mouth is, "I'm sorry about this, Peck."
Yeah.
Like, genuine, sincere apology followed by a slur for your people. It's like it's the duality of Madmartigan, you know,
Well,
um,
I
or
I
most anti-heroes, I guess.
yeah, I think maybe at that point, like I actually really like your take on that. I agree with that. Of him setting up a perimeter and everything. And I think maybe that's just like him saying Pack is just him trying to let or pull the wool over the soldiers' eyes, you know, and say, you know, I don't really give a shit about this guy. You just captured me, and trying to sort of deceive them a little bit, I think.
Well, immediately after that, he gets kicked in the face and makes it really clear that he doesn't want anything to do with any of them. So I not to disagree or anything like that. I think Madmartigan uh, is definitely more concerned with with the opinion of Willow than he is of the Nockmar soldiers and Sorsha's contingent.
Right, but I,
Or
I I think like maybe you know in showing that he doesn't care about them, that like maybe he feels like that would help. You know, I don't know. Never
He
mind.
he might just be lying to himself, but he's definitely keeping up appearances.
for sure.
Right, because clearly as they're going along, you know, in chains, being pulled by these wagons and whatnot. I mean, there's the moment where Madmartigan, like Willow is clearly on the side where Sorsha is riding up, and Madmartigan like actually runs across to block Sorsha from Willow. And that could be, you know, one of two things. Either he's trying to protect Willow, or he's really pissed off at Sorsha, or actually one of three things, maybe both. Like he's protecting Willow and he just wants to get a stab at Sorsha, you know?
A great philosopher once said, "It's always both."
Yeah, true. Yep.
Oh man, no, but I love that being like his relationship to Sorsha for the next 20 minutes is, I don't love her. She kicked me in the face.
Yeah. I just wanted to see your leg. I'd really like to break it.
Yeah, very cool. We can tell how cool you are right now, bro. You're very
Great,
mellow.
sexy machismo banter. Yeah.
Oh man, but it that sequence where they're in chains is like one of my favorites, and it's indicative of his growth. I mean, it's all shot basically in a montage, and it's over in a minute or two.
Yeah.
But we see the long trudge up the mountains, and Willow struggling, and Madmartigan obviously like having it much better. Willow desperately trying to care for Laura Dannon, Finn Rizal being caged up away from them. It's all like it feels very over. And I could imagine being Willow in that situation and feeling like this is it, we're done. And like Madmartigan kind of showing the first real signs of actual support for Willow, real care for Willow kind of happen there when he sees Willow getting tired, stumbling, and picks him up and puts him on his shoulders. That's honestly his first apparent, obvious, on-screen service to the Nelwyn, which he doubles down on soon after. The first encampment, we get Willow changing Finn Rizal into from a ferret or muskrat. What does anyone know? Anyone know what animal that is?
Actually, I thought it was what did I think it was? I thought it was a kinkajou, and I looked it up, and I saw a kinkajou. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a kinkajou." But I'm looking at the wiki right now, and it turns out it's a bushtail possum.
A bushtail possum. Oh my goodness, so wonderful.
Members
Okay.
of the genus yada yada yada. They're native to Australia and some nearby islands. So New Zealand, clearly. They just got a
There
New
we go.
Zealand animal that they could use, and they did it.
Yeah, so it makes perfect sense. Yeah, that they might have to change that animal once they change location. A crow might be a little bit easier to port around
Right?
in those deep mountains. You're not having to give the animal wrangler a stunt bump or
Right?
something like that. An environment bump. But yeah, changes Finn Rizal to a crow, and Madmartigan tries to help the brownies pick the lock and gets smacked in the face with the dust of the Broken Heart.
Yep.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I think that scene where they're in the cage together is one of the best like comedic beats from the whole movie. Like it plays like a comedy, kind of shot in like mediums a lot of the time, with all of them in the frame together. You get a lot of really fun like perspective shots with Madmartigan and the brownies, and it's a lot of fun. And you get right to the next layer of the most. I really, it's kind of the comedic core of the film. The next like 5 or 10 minutes or so, because we go from this moment where Madmartigan, and it's almost like him and Finn Rizal are kind of cracking jokes with each other. Like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna look like if this works? I'm a beautiful woman.
Yes,
Concentrate,
young
Willow.
and beautiful woman.
Concentrate, Willow.
Yeah. With
Oh,
a little
man.
bit of sick desperation in his voice.
That's real. It's actually an interesting point we should definitely make a note of to talk about during Finn Rizal's episode, because she thinks she's supposed to be a young, beautiful woman.
Right.
How long ago was she turned into what was it again? A bobtailed raccoon?
Bushtail possum.
Bushtail possum. I got that completely wrong. A bushtail possum. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Does anybody know how long it's been? Who knows?
It is. I actually haven't checked on that little factoid yet, but we'll
It's
definitely
been a
make
minute,
a note to do that before Finn Rizal's episode, because that's
Yeah, totally.
it's interesting. The time, the magic and time elements of fantasy. Can we please?
Right, and who knows if the magic makes the time seem faster, or or maybe as a bushtail possum, you're like, oh, life is just life. Every day is like Groundhog Day. I do the same thing. Like what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Like honestly, there's 1,000 different possibilities from that, but
Yeah.
it's always really fascinated me. Like I never thought about it, the fact that like being different animals that have much shorter lifespans might shorten her actual human lifespan in the process of being transformed into a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It
Anyway,
accelerates her aging process. Maybe like she was just turned into like a year ago, and because she's a bushtail possum, she's aged like 30 years.
That's the real trick of that magic. That's
Yeah.
the
okay,
real bad part.
okay. That performance is sheer art, and I want to definitely talk about it. We're on Madmartigan time right now,
Right.
baby. I
Yes.
mean, we're getting to the most cartoonish, like Bugs Bunny ass moment of the movie, and it's one of
Right.
my favorites. Okay, do you guys remember in that sequence right before they get to the tent, like if he's like how he interacts with stuff? He's
If
just
he's
like
what?
lost in a dreamland, right?
Oh yeah.
Like what's interesting is in the novelization, just a quick little tidbit. They talk about like how Madmartigan basically almost gets them busted a bunch of times before they get to the tent. Like I went to
Okay.
go back and try and like find the dialogue because the dialogue in the book is actually usually pretty close to the dialogue in the film. I usually, they add a little bit here or there, but give it a little bit more meat. But most of the time, it's basically taken straight out of the uh, oh, pardon me, the uh, script. It seems, and it's pretty interesting. But they change a handful of words around in that dialogue, and I'm just like, man, that was pretty perfect. I don't think you needed to adjust for anything there. Um, it was a little funny, but the interesting thing was, Madmartigan like flirts with a pig. He tries to he is like floating away towards like guards and groups of people that are like almost getting them busted a bunch of different times. Like in the novelization, it's way more like ridiculous and over the top.
Funny.
Them even getting to the tent.
Yeah, I was wondering how that works because like with the brownie, and I think it was Kevin Pollock's brownie. I can't remember his name, the character name, but he like he gets hit with the bag, the dust is in his eyes, and he immediately falls in love with the first thing he sees, which is a cat. But then Val Kilmer, it takes a while before he finds Sorsha. So I didn't know if that was like a you're in love with everything you see, or you just kind of like first thing you see, you're like, oh, I fancy you.
Yeah, yeah.
Not sure the writers knew.
Maybe it's a body weight thing. He's a little bit bigger. Like if they were both drinking, it would take Rule a lot. It would take him less time to get drunk than Madmartigan, who's several times
True.
bigger. Maybe the dust of the broken heart just worked a little bit of the same way. It took him.
True. Okay. Because he had fallen into beer, right?
He did. He did fall into beer. So that might also have affected his ability to,
Gotcha.
yeah, judge someone he loved from a predator that would eat him. Madmartigan actually fell into a similar trap, a different kind of
Right?
predator that
With
wanted to
Sorsha?
eat him. Maybe change that phrase. But point is that ultimately both of them fell into the same trap of of getting hit with the dust and you know falling for someone that it's obviously foreshadowing with Rule. I think in a way. I guess I never thought about it that way. But yeah, I mean that sequence, those two obviously had just such great chemistry that
Oh yeah.
just watching them like everybody talks about how great The Princess Bride was. They came out at almost the exact same time, within a year of each other, I think.
Uh-huh.
And it being like the greatest love story and all that. But my God, dude, the chemistry between Val Kilmer and Joanne Whaley in that scene is electric. And just,
Oh yeah.
I mean, you get like a full couple minutes of Madmartigan just I mean, they call it poetry in the film, but that's pretty much exactly what he's doing. It's just reciting poetry at her that he's coming up with off the top. I mean, he's spitting
Right. And
bars,
where'd he
really.
come up with it?
He's freestyling, man.
Right? So, just thinking about it right now, I just listening to you talk about it, like, I was thinking about the fact it kind of reminds me of hypnotism, where, like, they can hypnotize you, but they can't make you do anything that you wouldn't normally, like, or subconsciously really want to do. So, like, maybe the brownie really did love cats, secretly love cats. And, Madmartigan was, it wasn't something he wouldn't normally do. It's just that, she just happens to be his enemy at the time. And this powder helped him get over that fact and get into the real good stuff,
I like that
Maybe.
thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned when we were in the tavern and they met, like the chemistry was already there,
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like plays out like a lot of the romantic comedies of its era, where the relationship has obviously got like a lot of initial tension and conflict, but ends up in a kind of romantic, passionate romantic kind of engagement. Like there's tons of stories from the 80s and 90s that have that same kind of romantic formula, and here it
Oh
is playing
yeah,
out in this fantasy movie.
like Romancing the Stone or something.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
It's
What a
that
great
guy
movie.
that you hate, and then turns out you love him.
Yeah. No,
So
totally.
it is fun to see on film.
We love to see it. It's the box office numbers don't lie. We do love to see it
Dude,
as a society.
Everyone was following that kind of Han Solo Leia dynamic, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. I can
mhm.
see that. Very influential.
Half
Lucas
when it's got
Lucas
that
again
stuff in
writing what he
between the
knows.
burgers.
Yep.
But then yeah. So obviously cuts himself out of the tent. They go and they get on the shield to slide down the mountain, and another really fantastic chase sequence. It's less of a chase and more just like a
It's
really
actually
fun
them though, which is cool for a lot of that.
dude,
Right.
right? And it's yeah,
And even just
breathtaking stuff.
before he gets on the shield, like, he tells Willow, get on the shield, and then he does some cool sword shit. And then Willow's like, oh, you are a badass. What the hell?
Yeah. He finally gets to see Madmartigan be Madmartigan, who,
In his element,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, everyone. It's made a lot more clear in the novelization that everyone knows Madmartigan. Madmartigan is a name that people know for being a swordsman. He is the greatest swordsman. Like that's his reputation.
Right?
So that is him being able to actually be the person that he wants to be, and in a way, probably for the first time in his life, he's actually felt like good about it. He was doing it for the right reasons, or
Mm.
doing it to protect somebody that at this point means pretty much everything. He's putting on his life on the line for him.
Yeah.
Willow's putting his or Madmartigan's putting his life on the line for Alora and Willow, and there's not really you know I don't think he's connected enough with Frangine and Rule or
Well, he has a love-hate
or Finn Rizal.
relationship with them. Like, he calls them names and stuff like that, but that's the way he shows his love, I think, with them.
He literally, yeah. I don't think for the last third of the movie we actually get to see him acknowledge them at all.
Yeah.
And
He
considering how
calls them
often
lizards at one moment.
yeah, and considering how often him and Sorsha are sword to sword, like they might be getting the better deal.
Right?
Very true. Very
I
true.
like how there's a moment where Madmartigan is fighting with a sword and he's like, badass, badass, badass. And then Willow's like, wow, you really are a great swordsman. And then he's like, yeah. And he flips his sword and catches it and falls on his ass, as he's
Yeah.
trying to show off.
Yeah, I love that moment. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely. 'Cause he's still
hey, great shot. Don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Except it's back to Han Solo instead of to Luke.
Well, because in
And
this case, Han Solo needs to gain that hubris for his, third act payoff. That,
Absolutely.
yeah.
and and it's funny because you haven't actually gotten to see, Madmartigan in his own like that for a good majority. We're well into the movie at this point, and he had a shovel at one point,
Yeah.
a big goofy looking mallet hammer thing. So it's really cool to see him with that sword, and then he does that flip trick with it, and then just to have him fall to undercut that moment's actually really
Yep.
nice.
Totally. It brings us into like the we're still following that kind of comedic beat with Madmartigan at this point. I mean, he's still got the dust of broken heart going through him, but he's a little bit more clear-headed, and we've been following this kind of like madcap comedy kind of beat for this part of the film, and only to follow it up with them finishing their wonderful sled ride by Madmartigan falling off the shield, rolling down a hill, collecting so much snow he becomes like 20 feet tall, crashing into a building, luckily not destroying it,
Yeah.
and thus getting cured of the broken heart, dust of the broken heart. But yeah, it's so that's the Bugs. He is literally a cartoon character in that moment. It's like the
Oh
most.
yeah.
It's like I don't know how I didn't think it was more silly when I was younger because it's just so cartoony. But it
Yeah.
it pulls it off so well. It's hard for that. Can you imagine Indiana Jones like doing something that cartoonish and it playing off like that was
Does
cool?
his
Right,
does
because
his
he did the
theme
sled thing, but yeah, he that was his level of comfortability with. All right, I'm too cool to become a snowball.
I can't remember if his theme song plays at that part.
You know what? And I like as I was watching that, like most recently, I realized like so he's fallen. He's coming down in the snowball, but it's more like a cylinder. And
Yeah.
we Samantha and I had just watched I don't know if it was a top tens or something on YouTube, and they were talking about different things and like conditions of weather, and like there's only certain conditions of weather in which like you can actually roll a snowball as a cylinder instead of like a ball, which is kind of cool. And it used to happen to me back home in Ohio. Like sometimes we would roll it up as a ball, and sometimes we could roll it as a cylinder. And it was just a thing that happened. And I don't know why or when it happened, but and I was like, oh shit. So it kind of connected with my childhood when he came down as that snowball, but it's a snow cylinder.
Yeah. See, and
Wait,
here I thought it was just because it'd be way easier to do. Like trying to control a snowball and get it to go where you want for a stunt sounds way more difficult than controlling a snow cylinder.
Right.
I played Breath of the Wild. I can confirm that's true.
I thought it was just for practicality.
Yeah.
I think a little bit.
It
Again,
might have
always
been,
both.
yeah.
I didn't think. I mean, it's just I love the kind of where that comedic kind of banter changes a little bit into the background more at that point, where
Yeah.
everything just kind of comes to this wonderful physical obvious conclusion, and we're back into this very dramatic moment. Them hiding from Sorsha and Kale in this tiny mountain village, where they meet Madmartigan's good old buddy Eric, who tells us a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
And he tells us a little bit more about Madmartigan, who Madmartigan is. He gives us a little bit more information. Of course, like, we're getting this all out of context. We're not, but what's really important is how Madmartigan tells us who he is at the end of that sequence. Like, I mean, Eric is just running into him. He's like, he's writing off Madmartigan, you know, uh,
Oh yeah.
you don't care about anybody but yourself, just absolutely serving him. Um, and I mean, Madmartigan doesn't try and defend his actions. He doesn't try and tell Eric, he doesn't get defensive. He tells us exactly what it's like the most important moment for him when he realizes that the most important thing for him right now is Elora and Willow, and he
Yeah.
says specifically, "I serve the no one, Eric," and it's like that's the moment. That is the
Yep.
turning point for the character. It's like he just like and Val fucking kills it. I mean, him and that dude that plays Eric. I should know his name. Really give a fantastic like back and forth in that sequence. All of they're like hiding under all of this tension. You know, trying to make sure Sorsha and Kale don't come in and tear their heads off while they're hiding in this little cellar. It's such a wonderful scene, and it's pulled off so expertly by everyone involved. It's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
Damn, you covered it, Weston.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I had
Absolutely.
more. I want to say something else just to give some variance, some some insight, some sort of thought, but I've just got a thumbs up on that one.
I'm so sorry, guys. Like I feel like I've just been like
No,
I
No,
can input up about
you
this
put it
character
very
for so long.
succinctly.
no, I
love it.
I wholeheartedly agree. Absolutely. And Eric is Gavin John O'Hurley.
What a handsome man.
I'm
Oh my
so
goodness.
glad we made you read that and I didn't have to.
He's an Irish-born actor, and he was known for playing Chuck Cunningham in the first episodes of Happy Days, as well as his appearances in films such as Never Say Never Again, Death Wish 3, Willow, and Superman 3, apparently.
That's wild. So he had that previous working relationship with Ron Howard.
Yeah. Yep, definitely.
Oh, that's so wild. Oh man. I mean, I love Eric's design so much as a character. The armor he wears, the way that he's got the like very Nordic braids in the side of his hair and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The beard. I mean, he's got like such a cool aesthetic to and him and the whole army of Galadorn, right?
Yeah.
They've got such a cool aesthetic. I love the way that they design those. I mean, everyone in the film just has such a great like. They made a lot of really great choices for the aesthetics of this film, costuming and props, and of course the gorgeous sets that they built everywhere they went. I mean, but yeah, I mean, and then you kind of see Madmartigan once they get to. I mean, because then after that we go to Tyr's Lean. No one, of course, telling Willow. Eric tries to. I think Eric is about to say something about Tyr's Lean when Willow tells him that's where they're planning to go. But he's like, I think what he says is something along the lines of like you'll find nothing at Tyr's Lean or something like that. Like it's really vague.
Real vague, yeah.
Like obviously, they're kind of like pressed for time, having to deal with this very tense situation, but like, man, that would have been helpful. Just don't go to Tyr's Lean, man.
Something you could have mentioned yesterday.
He kind of does try to tell him to take the fight straight to Bab Morda at that point, but I mean, it's not the right time. The Galadorn army is scattered. What's left is like, basically sitting right there with him in this tiny little mountain village about to have a fight with Sorsha and Kale and, probably the better part of the Nockmaar army. He's not necessarily thinking about what Willow and Madmartigan's future have in store for them. But, oh man, I just always, especially at this point, I watch that movie and I'm just like, why the hell aren't they telling him don't go to Tyr's Lean? Why isn't that more explicit? Could have saved so much pain and effort. But then the movie wouldn't have happened the same way, and I'm really glad it happens this way because not only do we get them taking Sorsha as a captive to get out of there, and them having her and Madmartigan's character having that chance to kind of like talk about what just happened, and you know, under the out of the influence of the dust of the broken heart. I think it's an interesting scene on their journey there, and man, but then they finally do get there, and that's when Willow turns Finrazel into a goat from a raven,
Yep.
and
I
Madmartigan fights an entire army by himself.
I love
Yeah, I
the
oh, sorry,
setup.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, yeah, you jumped past my favorite part when it's like when he opens the door and there's just all these weaponry and crossbows and
Oh,
stuff. It's like a kid in a candy store. Like
Oh,
even
yeah.
as an audience, like there's a real visceral joy to that scene, and
totally.
I really love when he finally gets his cool armor and
Yeah.
weaponry. He's using shovels up to this point, so I really love that kind of like Home Alone esque
Yeah.
setting up all the traps. There's just something cool about it in all movies. Rambo, Home Alone,
Yep.
setting all the traps up to overcome these odds. Predator.
As we were watching it, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is where he home alones the castle of Tirazline."
Yeah, it's my favorite.
I like how and I feel like that's a great moment that that you have in any D&D campaign where there's an you go to a new place and there's an unexpected trove of not necessarily treasure, but it's treasure to certain people, and you're like, oh shit, there's swords, there's armor, hell yeah,
Yeah.
like
Oh
it's a
yeah.
great thing for a
Mhm.
DM.
I was definitely thinking on that perspective. Like this is where you finally get all those things that you've been clamoring at your
Yep.
GM for. And then as the GM, you're like, yeah, you can have all these things. And now trolls and dragons.
Yeah.
And now I get to up my CR rating and have some fun.
Yeah, you might get it for free, but even though there's not a gold piece cost to it, there is a cost.
And those
There's
costs
always a
way,
cost.
yeah,
And you had to earn it to get there.
the costs outside of gold are always more fun to play with.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, the absolute joy on his face when he finds the armory. And like especially after he's so bummed, dude. Like they went all this way. Like they literally okay, if you map this out, Willow and Madmartigan went from the crossroads to the tavern to the lake by Tirazline. Literally not far from the castle of Tirazline.
Right.
Up the fucking mountain, then down the mountain back to where they just came from to Tirazline.
Yeah.
Oh my god, can you imagine the frustration you would feel at this point? Not even having and why doesn't Madmartigan know that Tirazline fell? It appears like it's fell a long time ago. Like
From a
it doesn't those crystallized people didn't just happen there last week. The dust on all of everything there didn't happen in a month or two. Those people have been frozen in a place there for years at that
yeah.
point, by my estimation.
For
It
from a character standpoint, that reminds me, everybody's been in those games where it's been few and far between, and you've been adventuring, and you're like, God damn it, when the hell am I gonna level up? What's going on? Ah, and then you're like, oh god damn it, now another trap. Oh wait, oh I leveled up. Oh, there's more armor. Oh hell, you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those.
Well, what's cool about that too, and it kind of reflects a good game, is that the story is leveling up too. We talked about how it was
Yeah,
very kind of cartoony, and it still is. Like you have that moment where Madmartigan's in front of the whole army, and he's like yelling and trying to intimidate them, and they all start backing up like they're scared because the double-headed dragon thing is behind him. And then you get that comedic moment where he's standing next to all their soldiers and they're just looking at the big thing. So there's definitely
Yeah,
like
yep.
there's still these comedic moments, but the tone is shifting. The stakes are, getting higher. The action is leveling up as far as effects go as well. So it all is all it all goes hand in hand. When you're leveling up your characters, you're leveling up as a DM too. You got to find new tricks to pull out of your bag.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Yeah.
so okay, I've always had this theory that Willow is a campaign. Like, okay, so Gygax was rumored to have ran uh, celebrity like D&D campaigns. Like he would run a campaign for famous people, probably. Like I doubt they had long running campaigns or anything like that. But
Right.
it seems like a good way for someone like Gary Gygax to earn a few bucks when D&D is taking off and has some popularity and kind of notoriety at that point. So I've always theorized that that's where Willow came from. That was like the nugget of where that story comes from. So I love that we're always kind of like tying it to this. But
Yeah.
man, so you imagine like Ron Howard, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, maybe James Horner gets invited. Uh, I think that would be an interesting like who plays who. Like who's Madmartigan. In that play group.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah, and but ultimately, I think you go through all of this huge fight sequence with those like the most unorthodox double-headed dragon you've ever seen in your entire life, and like how does that even work? I mean, the rules of magic in Willow are kind of like who knows what's going on. It's absolute chaos, but it's kind of wonderful in that way. You never quite know what you're going to get. So when Willow, what is he drops the acorn into a body of water that's sitting there and by one of the towers, and it starts bubbling. That's I'm not getting this wrong, right? There's no another
Well,
step in the way there.
he tries to use his magic with the like with the troll, and the
wand.
troll falls down into it.
That's right. He tries to use the wand.
He uses the
Man,
wand. Yeah.
Yeah, the troll becomes that thing somehow.
Yeah.
oh
He
God.
tries
It's
to cast a
called
spell, and the spell
it's
goes
called the
away.
Ebersisk.
Ooh, that's a cool name.
That's the
Yeah.
in-universe name for it?
Yeah, the Ebersisk is a frightening giant monster and a villainous force in the fantasy film Willow, the result of the titular hero's attempt to use magic to dispose the threatening troll, only to have the spell backfire and transform the troll into a far greater threat than it originally was.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only spell Finrazel's been teaching him is the transformation spell.
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Holy shit.
Oh wow. I guess it does make some more sense than I thought it did. But yeah, it's just such a wonderful, like, such a gross effect. Like, put that in a kids movie nowadays. See how many parents write you letters.
Right?
But I love that. I love the depictions of violence in Willow. Not because I'm some maniac who's like thirsty for blood or something, but I think
Right. You
it's
are,
really
but that's
important to.
beside the point.
I think it's important to teach kids that violence has real consequences.
Yeah.
And in an action movie, especially a big blockbuster action movie, having that much blood in a movie that's basically targeted mostly at kids is I think good. In my opinion,
Yeah, well,
it's a realistic depiction of violence at every turn. Willow in
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
sequence kills a person for the first time, and
it
like,
doesn't pull punches, but it doesn't make it so graphic that they have trauma. You know what I mean? Like it sort of gets them to understand what the world is kind of like.
yeah, and I think if you're going to depict violence in a movie, I think it's more irresponsible, in my opinion, to do a fight sequence like they would do in Avengers, where everyone is throwing super powered punches at each other and comes away not even looking like they've been in a fight.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it's a lot better to at least show that if violence happens, there are real consequences.
I agree.
I'm
But
inclined
yeah,
to agree as well.
and that's why I love the moments of like kind of the grosser parts of Willow, like when the troll turns in like that weird brain creature, starts peeling itself apart at the skin and like falls into the water. It's so
Yeah.
gross.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
After the fight, the scene where everyone gets turned into a pig.
Oh yeah.
But
after
what's the evil lady Bevmorda?
mhm.
Bavmorda, yeah.
Yeah, when she turns everyone into a pig, that's a great moment too. But I don't want to get too sidetracked from Madmartigan.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, we've been talking a while, haven't we, folks?
Um, I wanted to
Oh wow.
bring up one thing that's difficult about Madmartigan in a game would be that sort of like Wolverine esque, the character who leaves the party. Like Madmartigan leaves and comes back a lot, and that's kind of hard to do in a party, but also easy if you have someone who's just like not there physically and you're trying to like
Right.
write it in. So if you maybe have a character who's kind of like a little bit neutral, kind of like what is it, Casey Jones in Ninja Turtles, like it's okay to have who kind of shows up and doesn't show up as needed if that's just the real world, you
Right.
know, influencing your game. So if you kind of know that coming into it, you can make a sort of Madmartigan type character, it'd be kind of cool
True.
that he comes in and out of the party story wise, it's part of his shtick, part of his cool factor.
Right.
Um, but if you don't have that working for you, if you're just trying to like build it as a story, you don't necessarily have to physically leave the party. You can always just have like a little character moment, or just something where you say something instead of actually doing something about leaving the party. Um, there's plenty of moments where you can hint at the fact that your character may not necessarily want to be there, but everyone knows in the meta that there's nowhere else you're going. We're all here to play D&D. So
Right.
there's definitely ways that you can have fun with that kind of that not the team player and still be a team player.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Kind of like in Vox Machina with Pike Trickfoot, like she was in and out, but they still included her, and they found creative ways to include her too when she couldn't physically be there as well, the voice actor. So yeah, that was
and
good.
and it was part of the story arc too. It gave her an internal conflict to overcome, which
Yeah.
is which
I
is
always
always
find that
really
like
fun.
really, you know what, like when somebody tells you, like if you have to create something, when somebody tells you you have free reign, it's so much harder to create something than when they give you like specific rules or things that you need to follow. This person isn't here for certain amounts of time, or like, you've got X, Y, and Z rule, then you have something to like graft your story upon. You know what I mean? Like it makes it easier to create something really interesting if there's like obstacles.
Those limitations are what spurn the really great ideas. I have full belief in that.
What might be another potential for the player behind Madmartigan is like that guy who comes to the party and is kind of like, has like a really strong character idea that they probably should have ran by the DM first before they went for it. Like,
Yeah.
they want this badass character, and maybe and probably in their own head are thinking, well, my arc will be like to get closer to the party and like have friends for the first time for this character. I've definitely had like some outsider kind of background characters before. And I feel like usually, you start off standoffish, and eventually the DM is like, "Bro, why are you running away from the party all the time? Can you sit in one place for 5 minutes, please?"
Yeah,
Um,
he might be a bit of that character that's got like a 3-page backstory, and you as a GM, you're like, dude, 1 page per character. I've got these other 2 pages, they're happening off screen. You can come back, we'll give you a couple of items or something, but we just don't have time for this.
Yeah.
This is every character I play.
I
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
I wasn't pointing fingers, but there's this lampshade I have over here.
Thank you. Thank you for always making it work.
Yeah, and to help anyone out who's looking to run a Madmartigan-esque character, the aesthetics, I mean, you got to put some points in some charisma, and make sure you do Val Kilmer do justice. I do love that he's got that long hair and the rough shaved kind of look. He starts in a cage with nothing and bad teeth. Um, his long hair is always around, but never covering his eyes for too long. So make sure you keep true to that when you create your Madmartigan-esque character. And I think we went over the themes here pretty well, regarding redemption and courage and not being the team player. We're gonna have a link to the character sheet that I made in D&D Beyond for Madmartigan. I went with a level 3 fighter for this build because I feel like he's a fighter. He's a swashbuckler, and I went with the battle master archetype for him because I feel like
Yeah.
it's I'm actually quite proud of this little build here because there's different ways to build your fighter as like a defensive fighter or even like controlling opponents on the battlefield. And if you go the battle master, you can kind of take a little bit of each, because I feel like Madmartigan in the movie does a little bit of each. At one point, you see him. I think he dual wields at one point. He's like holding a
Yep.
dagger and a sword.
Uh-huh.
Um, but so you never really see him with a shield and a sword. But if you're playing in D&D and your other character is Willow, you're gonna want to be protecting your little gnome wizard. So I went with some choices here that give you a little bit of offense and a little bit of defense as well, and some uh, it's one of those fighter builds that it requires a little bit more work. Most of the time, you're not going to say, I just attack. You're going to be using these cool battle master abilities with the superiority dice, and you're going to be tracking your action economy and making sure you're using either your bonus action or your reaction every turn. So some of the choices that you get, like fighting style, player's handbook wise, I went for the it's dueling, which means as long as you're wielding a single weapon, you get a +2 to your damage bonus. But what I would encourage you to do, or ask your GM to allow, would be it's a fighting style. I know it was in the Unearthed Arcana, so you can find it online pretty easily, but I think it was released in a book as well. Maybe Ghost Marsh. What is it? Salt Mines of Ghost Marsh, the like seafaring book. They have a fighting style called the Mariner, and you can wear, I think, light or medium armor, and it gives you a climbing speed and an AC bonus. So it's very much that swashbuckling kind of Princess Bride,
Oh, yeah.
Willow fighting style. So I feel like that kind of fits with him. Like at one point, I think in one of his first fights, you see Madmartigan, he actually just like leaves, like he jumps out a window, like he gets out of there. He loses against the big bad in that fight,
Yep.
Bev Morta's henchman. So I think that Mariner fighting style fits it well. But if you can't manage that, just pick something else out of the player's handbook. And if you're going human variant fighter, you got to find ways to make it fun and interesting, because that can be kind of a boring build. So I feel like the Battle Master makes it fun. The Mariner fighting style, that's going to give you something to play with outside the box. And then for the Battle Master techniques, the ones that I chose are the let's see, battle maneuvers, bait and switch. So when you're within 5 feet of a creature on your turn, you can expend 1 superiority die and switch places with that creature. So if someone's attacking Willow, you can switch places with him and take the hit. And it doesn't even necessarily require you to have a shield, though you might want to do that anyways. But I love that bait and switch. You can use that to keep someone else alive.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool.
the other 2 maneuvers, you can go, a little more utility or damage based. I went with the goading attack. When you hit with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to add the total to the damage roll, and the target must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target has disadvantage on all attack rolls against targets other than you. So this is crowd control. This is going to keep attacks going against you instead of your allies. It's also just going to add some damage to one of your attacks. It's using your attack action, so you are already going to be most likely making attacks anyways. So as part of your action economy, you're not really losing anything on that. And then the last one I chose is evasive footwork, and this is to match him jumping out of that window. This is when you move, you can expend 1 superiority die, rolling the die and adding the number rolled to your AC until you stop moving. So the way the action economy works in the game, you could potentially use all 3 of these in one turn if you just need to, supernova in one fight, and you get them all back with a short rest. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
actually, I think, a pretty decent build, and I can see why people play human fighters so much.
Yeah, totally.
we have a player in our Tomb of Annihilation campaign that runs a very similar build to that, right? Like a similar class,
Oh
right?
yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is. I didn't even think about that. Very much a Julian Alvari character. One thing I did pick with the human variant trait, you can pick any feat you want. I ended up going with the Sentinel attack. When a creature within 5 feet of you makes an attack against a target other than you, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. So even if you're out of superiority dice, you've still got ways of protecting Willow and little
Oh, that's
baby
cool.
right next to you.
That's a
Nice.
really dope build.
Hell yeah.
Stats wise, we did a dump of wisdom, so that's an 8, a -1. Intelligence became a 10, so that's a +0. The charisma is a 12 for +1, and then the rest of the build went into strength, dexterity, and constitution, so that you can get your +2s in your dex and con, and a +3 on your strength. You'll be making all your damage and attack rolls with that. And I've got an AC of 18 coming out of the gate with disadvantage on stealth. And to go along with that character sheet, there's some cool tokens, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. If you wanted to just run in and play Madmartigan in a game, we basically got you covered.
That's cool.
Dude, no, but seriously, the one the with the armor, the two figures you did with the armor looks so
Uh-huh.
good.
Thanks.
I mean, all of them look great, but I really like the way that you like posed those two specifically and
Oh
everything.
yeah.
Very drama. I love it.
Yeah. I tried to there was a moment in there was like a still capture where he was like holding it off to, I think, like his left side or his right side, and it was a two-handed sword. But I tried to manipulate it to do that, but it wouldn't do that. So I just picked the crouched one, and then the standing up with the one hand to sort of show his fighting skill and his arrogance a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know, it's dope. I might have to just run a one shot where I play Madmartigan because he's like one of my favorite characters, and I want to, or maybe I've always okay. So maybe yeah. Now I'm actually getting an idea for this. Maybe I'll be Madmartigan's son.
Nice.
It was a handle I used, I think, on like Vampire Freaks or some early social media site.
Uh-huh.
Maybe it was Photoshop. I can't remember, but either way, um, yeah, it was like a handle I used at one point. Madmartigan's son. So maybe that would be the character. I would just have like the fighting style very similar to that build. I could even like do one of the mini figs that would be like I think one of the earlier ones would be perfect. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude. Okay. Well, now I have a
That's
whole
cool.
idea. I'm gonna go write this out.
Nice.
Oh man. Um, like, what do you think? Okay, so it's really interesting. Joanne Whaley, Val Kilmer end up together at the end of the or during the course of the film. But
Mm.
it's interesting how Sorsha and Madmartigan grow closer as the film continues, and we see them like essentially as the official caretakers of Aurora Danon at the end of the film, with like
Mhm.
Finn Razel's obviously there at their. I mean, is it a wedding or is it just a send off for Willow that they're all like dressed in white and looking real cute? Just a
Huh, yeah.
celebration? What are they doing?
It could be I could see it as maybe a little bit of both. Like maybe they had a wedding and a feast and then they did a big send off for Willow, or maybe it was just for Willow. Who knows?
Like, I just like I'm glad Finn Razel's there because Madmartigan still doesn't feel like a good father. Like by the end of the film, he's come a long way. Damn it! Like, gotta give the man credit.
Yeah,
Madmartigan's come a long way by the end of the film, but yeah, I still don't know if him and Sorsha are ready to be parents to a kid they're just adopting. You know, this kid that was literally born in trauma and traveled by boat in her first or a
right.
thicket of reeds in her first few days on the planet. Like, my God, that kid
And
grew up
Sorsha
rough.
knows nothing about mothering.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just realized how kind of off that epilogue is. Like Willow should get the kid. What do you right?
But you know
I
what though?
Connection.
Here's the thing. I think like honestly, it's like every new parent's fucking thing. Like, they like the first time you have a kid, you don't know how to take care of a
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
What this guy's a womanizer, that girl's a fighter, like they get together and oh, they have a baby. Oh shit, what do we do now? So I think it's pretty apropos.
Yeah,
well, I
Willow's
think it's
they're
pretty.
like they're constantly seeking advice from Willow.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
no,
But
that would be
I like
great.
Weston's take. Like Finn Rizal is there, so like now they've got Grandma to like. Okay, this is how you sort of do this shit.
You've got a crazy lady that lived on an island as a fucking possum for years, man. Who knows? Who knows how she's doing with raising children? I mean, okay. We do have the fact that Tirzlin's curse is lifted. That's
Yeah,
where they're
yeah,
partying is at Tirzlin. So you imagine the king and queen of Tirzlin are at least back in power, or they just make Sorsha and Madmartigan the king and queen. Maybe they're dead.
right.
I'm not entirely sure. The film is
Oh
unclear
no.
on this point.
I there is a king who has like no lines who's just standing like next to them.
Oh, okay, all right. So the king of Tirzlin is revived.
I
So yeah,
I
they have
couldn't tell you that unless I had it on in front of me. Sorry.
Well, they have all of the resources in the world at their disposal, essentially, to be good parents. I mean, what they're really going to have to focus on is working on, dealing with their own traumas and what they've been conditioned to, and like hopefully, like turn out to be good parents. I mean, I think they're on that redemption arc already. Like
Right.
Sorsha, disavows her mother, literally helps kill her. I mean, she's not necessarily a great mental state, probably going through a lot of stuff in her own head, and definitely Madmartigan as well. I mean, he lost, Eric, who obviously was a very important person in his past. We don't get to know the full backstory of, sadly, but
Right.
um, you know, he, he been through quite the ordeal in the last few days of the course of the film. Um, Definitely, and it turns out in the novelization, you find out that Madmartigan, contrary to my headcanon, always thinking that he was like some street urchin rogue who him and Eric like grew up on the streets together or something like that. It was always how I imagined it, but I find out in the novelization, Madmartigan's a royal. You know, he was
Yeah,
born into privilege.
yeah,
Which changes the narrative for me a lot, and actually it's kind of a bummer to read when I first saw it. But yeah, it does inform you a little bit more about the fact that what Madmartigan would be uh, able to or privileged to as being a young father with this prophesied baby. I mean, I think ultimately Laura Dannon would pretty much just be raised by the kingdom, Madmartigan and Sorsha kind of being like the main guardians. But
right. They
I
have the final say. But yeah, it truly takes a village, you know?
Well, yeah, and in Shadow Moon, we do find out that the novel that Lucas and Claremont wrote, um, uh, that's like basically chronicles the story of Elora Danan. We'll probably get into that a lot more when we talk about Elora Danan. But I'm definitely still trying to get my research in there before I open my mouth about it. um,
Right.
but yeah, ultimately we do find out a little bit about Elora Danan has lived. She hasn't lived a hard life. You know, she's definitely been well cared for. So we know that much.
Yes.
Whether or not Willow plays too heavy a role in her life at the beginning is a little unclear. But we know that him and Elora do spend quite a bit of time during that first book together. I think that is
Yeah.
ultimately what we're going to end up seeing, a little bit of that dynamic with whoever they however Willow encounters this young group of adventurers in the sequel series. I think
Yeah.
that kind of vibe is going to be uh, played out again in that story as well. I think
Oh,
that's
I'm
probably,
sure.
yeah. So, and unfortunately, we won't be seeing Madmartigan in the sequel series at all.
Yeah,
I mean, poor Val Kilmer, he's been through quite the medical ordeal over the last few years.
definitely.
Um, I mean, uh, yeah, I don't want to get too deep into that. It's the dude's business, but
Right.
I know that he's had a lot of trouble with his voice. So
Yep.
I don't even know if he would be able to if they were planning on throwing that character back into the fold. But you know, uh, I don't think that a world like Willow's is gonna leave Madmartigan behind completely. I think we'll definitely hear a little bit about him in the sequel series coming up. We just unfortunately won't probably get to meet him.
Oh yeah,
I
for
think there
sure.
might I think there might be more goodwill for Madmartigan than Willow sometimes. Like, I feel better. I definitely feel like he's got a lot of charisma and he's a big part of it. So
Yeah.
um like I guess he's been quoted as saying, I like the fact, this is Val Kilmer talking about Madmartigan. I like the fact that he's unpredictable. He's a hustler, so he has a lot of different characteristics that come out of living through hard times. He's definitely one of the most interesting characters I've played. So he's
See,
definitely catching into
Yep.
what you were talking about living with hard times.
okay, maybe the
Absolutely.
headcanon wasn't quite as established in the like they didn't have a deep backstory for Madmartigan to give Val Kilmer. Maybe all Lucas was really able to give him and everyone else involved in the film was like the impression that you get from him kind of maybe just basically from the script and maybe some a little bit of blurb backstory or something like that, maybe nothing though. And
Right.
Val Kilmer put that idea so strongly into his character that it's just how I've always read it.
There's a really nice I was as I was going down the YouTube rabbit hole, um there's a really nice if you just search Warwick Davis Val Kilmer, it comes up. It's a 3 minute and 18-second interview, which was from the 25th anniversary Blu-ray disc.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's really cute.
So it like, and just like in hindsight, knowing what Val Kilmer's been through and everything like that, and just the play between the two, because they've both aged a little bit, but not terribly. And yeah, it's just a really nice moment between the two actors
Yeah,
and
it is
talking about
really.
Willow and everything.
Yeah, it is really enjoyable to watch. I've seen that.
I've never seen this. I'm gonna have to go track it down. But
Oh
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot of really great like on-set, behind-the-scenes like photos that you can find of those two. Like definitely like looking at each other like they're having a great time together. It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like anyone had a bad time on that set. It seemed
yeah,
like everyone was having a great time, well taken care of, and able to do their jobs, perform to their peak. I mean, honestly, I
You know,
I am very critical of so many things, but I have very little things to critique about Willow other than why didn't anybody tell him about Tira's Spleen? But other than that, like I mean, it everyone gives really incredible performances. It's got smart writing, and I think Madmartigan is a great example of how smart the writing can be, just giving you his whole backstory basically through exposition that's almost completely hidden through just banter between him and Eric. Uh, Even like him and the brownies at different points. They just little snippets.
yep,
Slowly unveiling this character and while he's on a journey of his own, which is just creates such a dynamic character who's you know who they are, but it's hard to get a sense of exactly where they are.
true.
And Madmartigan, or yeah, Madmartigan is just so expertly played by such an ambitious Val Kilmer, who definitely was playing not quite in the type that he had been cast in before this. It was a
Yeah,
very ambitious role, and
I
he
don't
fucking
know if you
nails it.
guys knew this, but John Cusack was had auditioned for the role as well, and they picked Val Kilmer over him.
That's awesome. Oh man, I cannot imagine Cusack with long hair in that movie. Oh no. I mean, this would have been teeny bopper Cusack too, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean Val was like 30 at that point.
Was he
Um,
really? Holy shit! Wow,
I think so. I
that's
I could
crazy.
be I could be off base here, but I think he was born in 51 and the movie came out in 88, so it was shot
Wow.
87,
Yeah,
I think.
that's
I'm not
cool.
100% sure. But yeah, Madmartigan or Val Kilmer is significantly that would make him significantly older if that's true, but I'm like
Yeah,
looking back into it now cuz no, he was born in 59. So, well, he
yeah,
would have been in his late 20s, yeah.
yeah.
Not
Because
quite 30.
Cusack was born in '66. So yeah,
Oh wow, yeah. So Cusack was quite a bit younger. Okay, yeah,
yeah, totally.
that would have been a really interesting casting, seeing a really really skinny Val Kilmer or Madmartigan.
Right?
we things do wrap up nicely for Madmartigan at the end, and I wonder, and we're gonna have to wrap up here soon, but I wonder if he kept the epithet name, or if he ever was just like, I'm not really so mad anymore.
No,
Right.
it's literally all one word. His name is all one word, Madmartigan.
Right?
Is
Yeah, so I don't know if it is a nickname or if it's
is
just
that his
like
surname or what's
Is
going
it
on? Yeah.
is if he were made a king, would it be King Madmartigan or just King Mardigan? If
it would be
they
King Madmartigan.
if he's a knight,
Or if
is it
he's like
Sir
really
Mad?
informal, King Mad.
Yeah. Is it Sir Mad if he was knighted? Oh
I
man.
I had to look into the book to make sure, but no, he was born Madmartigan.
Jeez. I mean, how could you not live up to that?
Right?
Hey, maybe it's a family name. His grandpa's name.
Yeah.
Uh,
My dad was mad, his dad was mad, and I'm mad.
That just sounds like the way you said it, it sounds like Danny DeVito.
Oh, I'll take that.
That's great. Hell yeah, that's awesome. Oh, imagine Danny DeVito as Mad Mardigan. Like, no, Danny DeVito as Willow's grandfather.
I think he would probably get cast as what is it, Urkel Cut or
Burgle cut.
all the names in this movie for some reason I can't keep straight. Burger Cut. I think DeVito would probably make a real good Burger Cut.
Oh man. Like the reboot, Danny DeVito as Burgle Cut.
Yeah.
They actually changed the name to Burger Cut.
I'm making you say it wrong now too. I feel extra good.
Burgle Cut definitely. Enough time has passed. He's dead. Burgle Cut's not coming back.
Oh come on, he's so much fun to hate though. Like he's just built there for you to just focus.
You want to get Danny DeVito in there? I'm all for it, 100%. But we don't need to invoke no nasty landlord.
Danny DeVito, he could play a troll. He's done that before.
Well, yeah, you got to have some kind of foil. You got to have a rival or foil for Willow.
Got to pay the troll toll.
Yeah.
All I know is DeVito's pretty selective these days with his roles, so you'd have to give him something juicy, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The troll toll's nice. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
You know what? That sounds like a good place to call it an ending here. We should thank everyone who's listening, especially if you stuck around this long. That's really wonderful. We love Willow and we love being listened to, and we're gonna keep talking about it. We're gonna do some support cast here next time. I haven't nailed it down yet. Do you guys have anyone in mind?
To invite in?
For who's next on our character deep dive?
Oh, I see. Man, that's a good question.
For next time.
Any ideas, Adam? Oh.
It could be Nelwyn's, it could be Sorsha, it could be
I've already
the Brownies.
I've got quite a bit written up about Bavmorda. How does Bavmorda sound?
Yeah.
That's actually cool because like we've been talking about one side of the factor of the action, like Bavmorda is totally different side. That's great. I like that.
A hero is only as good as their villain. So next time we'll be talking about Bavmorda.
Nice.
And not only the lore, but how you can run Bavmorda or a Bavmorda-like game. So that's what we'll plan for next time. If you have any feedback or questions, ignorethebird@gmail.com is where we've got our ears perked. And just to remind everyone, we is myself, Captain Zach, artist, GM, at nerdcrafty.com. We've got a lot of good things in the works there. So looking forward to hearing from you. And I am delighted to have been in the company of my friends Adam and Weston. Adam, take it away.
Yeah, I'm Adam, postman and actor, singer, dancer, also virtual model person, I guess, model crafter. Yeah. And you can find you'll be able to find my models on nerdcrafty.com in the Ignore the Bird section of that. I'm posting them so you can just take them and do what you want with them. I just like to make them and you can have fun with them, play with them as you will.
I plan on using the sorry to interrupt, I'm the worst. I do plan on using the dressed like a woman token of Madmartigan at some point.
Excellent. And then
baby.
So Weston.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Yeah, it's been a blast chatting with you guys about Madmartigan. He's like one of my favorite characters in fiction, and well, you can find me at Lava Submersible on Twitter and on Instagram and TikTok. I do a lot of art. I'm an actor, a musician, and just a lovable rascal who loves Willow.
Well, that was fun, guys. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.
This has been a Nerdcrafty podcast.